Hello, this is Kerwin Gaines, and welcome to another episode of The Agenda. And again, we have another return guest, Miss Julianne Murray. Thank you for coming on to The Agenda yet again.
Pleasure to be here. It's been a little bit more than a year. A lot has happened.
A lot has happened. Before, I don't think you were a former candidate, or just a candidate.
I was a candidate last time I was here.
For the Office of Attorney General for the state of Delaware. Now you're here as an attorney?
Yes.
Legal expert?
I have to be careful about the word expert, but I can say a thing or two. So yeah. Well, and when you called me, I basically was like, is he calling me as a political candidate? Because this is part of this is about political candidates or about the law. And the beautiful thing is, I can talk to both.
Talk to both. I love it.
Talk to both.
So you're probably wondering, what the heck are they talking about? And we're talking about a very, very popular issue, a very important issue right now for our nation and our nation's history, and that is the indictment of former President Donald Trump. Some people may say, oh, well, the agenda is very left-leaning. So I didn't want to continually bring people on that gave that idea, okay? I wanted to balance things out, and that's why I'm bringing Ms. Murray onto the show today.
Got it.
She is also running to be the head of the GOP for the state.
I am.
And the election is in how many days?
It's April 29th is the state convention. Yes.
So very, very close. Mm-hmm. And we want to give her an opportunity to kind of speak to that afterwards. But right now, I just want to know, where does the party stand right now? Are they actually behind former President Trump in this whole thing?
Well, and let me ask you, we've done this before. Let me ask you, are we talking about the state party or are we talking about the national party?
Either.
Okay.
We can start at one and go to the other.
Okay, so nationally, the RNC put out what I would consider to be a pretty lukewarm, statement about this, that was a statement in name only, but didn't actually give a whole bunch of what I would call support. Mm-hmm. RNC does not speak for all Republicans. I mean, just, in terms of that's a political organization, and as a candidate, I can tell you the organization is different than the grassroots voters. Mm-hmm. Okay? Many Republicans, nationally support Donald Trump, and so the party, I think, is at a disconnect with the voting base nationally, and I also think that in the state that's true. So the night that this indictment came out, I put out a press release, and I sort of struggled. I went, what's my letterhead? I'm a lawyer,
right.
And I'm a former candidate, but I'm not running for attorney general. And so the headline said, former AG candidate Julianne Murray says, that this is a legal travesty. Mm-hmm. Okay, and I wanted it out because, and what's interesting, for me. This indictment, and I brought a copy for anybody who's wondering what's in front of me, sets a bad precedent for the law. It's not about Donald Trump.
And we're going to post a link to this indictment for
Perfect.
The
so within the state, I put that out. And the party, the state party, the current chair, didn't put anything out, and that then turned into in social media. So the person who's running for the chair will make a statement, but the sitting chair will not make a statement, and that turned into a big brouhaha.
Right.
Then finally, the state did put a statement out, but I can tell you in Delaware, within the Delaware Republican Party, the voters that I've talked to, the people within the party, except the chair, are worried about this and bothered by it in terms of what it's trying to accomplish.
So when you say worried, do you feel that this is politically motivated?
Absolutely.
This is so you don't think it has anything to do with jurisprudence and him breaking laws? It has everything to do with it being politically motivated?
Yes.
Wow.
But would you like me to explain?
Well, I think you should.
Okay. All right. So this is, I am a lawyer, okay, and I have done criminal defense. Okay, so I spent 5 years, defending felony cases, and understand the mechanics of how the law works. Every state's a little bit different. Okay, but this is taking. All right. So let's just take what on its face, what people are calling hush money. Mm-hmm. Okay, this is, there's an alleged affair. You don't want it to go public, yet everybody knows about it anyway. Stormy Daniels was talked about in 2016 when he was running. Mm-hmm. This is not a secret. Okay, you have hush money. Okay, he pays, he pays her off. If we take all of that on its face value, okay?
That the person running for president of the United States is paying off a professional woman, I think they're still called professionals, or an escort,
Okay.
to keep this out of the media, to keep this so nobody knows.
Okay.
That's what they're doing.
Okay. So far.
So far, so good.
But so far, none of that is a crime. Okay. What they've done here is, so this is where we get into kind of what's dangerous about it. And again, whether it's Donald Trump or whether it's you, okay, this is at most what would consider to be a misdemeanor crime. Okay, they have felonized it here. They've turned it into a felony. But a misdemeanor statute of limitations has already run. Okay, so they needed this to be a felony in order to, because it's 7 years after the fact. Okay, they need it to be a felony. And what they're saying, although it does not say it here in the indictment, is that this is related to campaign finance. That's the hook. Okay, but they're mixing New York law and federal law. Okay, those don't mix. They're each in their own lane. Okay, I can't prosecute.
So are the indictments that are there?
The charges.
The charges.
Yep.
Thank you. Are they New York charges or are they federal charges?
They're New York charges.
There's no federal charges.
There are no federal charges. And by the way, the federal, the U.S. attorney for New York looked at this years ago and passed on charging this federally. So it was, it's been looked at and they went, there's no crime here. The commissioner for the, Federal Elections Commission has come out and said, there's no campaign finance violation here. So kind of that underlying federal hook from a, and I will tell you, I'm interested in it from a legal standpoint. There are people on the left and on the right who are looking at this going, this is kind of unprecedented, this concept of let's take a New York law, because basically falsifying a business record under New York law is typically a misdemeanor. The way that it is felonized is if there's another crime. So when it says here with intent to defraud and commit another crime, that's what, and they're using that campaign finance, as the hook. But from a pure legal standpoint, okay, an indictment is supposed to put the defendant on notice of what they're being charged with, okay? And how this reads is with intent to defraud and intent to commit another crime, made or caused a false entry in a business record of an enterprise, to wit, which means...
That's where the checks came from, though.
No. That's the problem. Okay, so an invoice from Michael Cohen dated February 14, 2017, marked as a record of the Donald J. Trump Revocable Trust, okay, and I'm going to explain what that is, and kept and maintained by the Trump Organization. So, Donald J. Revocable Trust. Okay, a revocable trust is, is like, and I do estate planning. Go.
Right. So, was the trust funding anything in regards to his campaign?
No.
Was that a pot of money that he was using for any type of campaign funds?
No.
Okay.
Okay. So a trust, if you're married, okay, and you and your wife have a revocable trust, it's like a third person in your marriage, just what you need. 2 wives. So you have, but that trust is your property holder. Okay. And when you die, it continues to hold that property. It's a way to avoid it, to not have probate, and there's all sorts of reasons to have a revocable trust. But it's its own entity, just like a company is its own entity. Okay, so the counts, there's 34 of them, and I know that you were like, 34, and I said, well, if you're a person prohibited and you get caught with 10 bullets, you just got 10 counts. So every single one is individual. So they're saying there's 34 transactions here. Okay. They are either the Donald J. Revocable Trust or Donald J. Trump personally. Okay, so an example would be, you write a check out of the Kerwin Gaines checkbook. Okay, the way that this reads is it says marked as a record of the Donald J. Trump Revocable Trust and kept and maintained by the Trump Organization. These aren't Trump Organization records. They're his personal records. It's like you keeping your personal checkbook here at the agenda. And somebody saying that Kerwin Gaines' personal checkbook is a business record of the agenda. No, it's not. And so when you have a crime that is falsifying business records, and you're saying that it's a Trump Organization record when it's really not a Trump, it's just kept and maintained there because it's convenient. I mean, I keep my checkbook with me at Murray, my law firm that I won't say because I'm not supposed to, So from that standpoint, I think that, the indictment has issue from a pure kind of legal standpoint. There's going to be issues, and if I were defending this, and again, if you were the defendant, I would be saying exactly the same thing. My job as a criminal defense attorney, and it's ironic that I ran for the attorney general, and I understand that. A criminal defense attorney can very easily prosecute, not vice versa. Okay, so I look at this and I say, okay, it's not clear what the underlying crime is. It says intent to commit another crime. Well, what is that? The indictment is supposed to include that information. As an attorney, you can file for what's called a bill of particulars that says, so tell me what the heck you're talking about.
What's underneath there?
What's underneath there, and they undoubtedly will. But to kind of come back to the question of is it politically motivated, I think that all of the machinations that have happened here in order to get to this, and what I mean by machinations are, it's typically a misdemeanor that they're turning into a felony. They're mixing state law and federal law, which has never been done before, and to try and make something stick. That is, in my view, a dangerous precedent. And what I mean by that is, if we are going to, and the people who hate Donald Trump hate Donald Trump. Okay, I mean,
well, I want to go back to dangerous precedent.
Okay, go.
Okay, so yes, that is a dangerous precedent, but we're dealing with a president who has been dangerous, in my opinion, throughout his tenure.
Okay.
So that's just me.
Okay. I don't agree. There's a big, I'm running for the chair of the GOP. There's a surprise.
Right.
But I think that, from the standpoint of trying to push a criminal charge, civil is a totally different animal. Okay, and so, because I know that there's another case that's brewing in New York that has to do with its civil counts. Totally different animal. But to try and criminalize something like this, and let's not, Alvin Bragg, when he ran on the idea that he was going to go after Donald Trump. That was a campaign promise. It's not a leap to go, okay, so maybe it is politically motivated. And people, when I say that, the people who hate Donald Trump hate, and it's, it's not only the left. There are people on the left who actually...
Within your own party.
There are, absolutely. There are actually people on the left who also support Donald Trump. But when I say people who hate Donald Trump, I'm not saying it's just the left. It's the right. He is one of those. He is one of those people, that evokes a very strong response.
Right. So how will this affect your party in future elections, do you think? This is a president that's being brought up on criminal charges, felonious charges. How is this going to affect your party? Even statewide. Time's going to tell.
I'll give you my thought on it, okay? And I think that, what happens here is, all right, so one of the things about Donald Trump, is that he, even though he's a billionaire, okay,
Is he a billionaire?
Okay, buku bucks.
Okay.
Buku bucks. Okay, he has a lot more money than the two of us.
Yes.
Okay.
I'll go for that.
Yeah. All right. So a very wealthy man, okay, comes across as an advocate for the average Joe. He does. He has somehow tapped into. People are very, very loyal to him and appreciate that he can be so down to earth. He can. Look at this. Look, give it to me.
Which earth are you referring to?
The one we are sitting on right now.
Okay.
All right.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
No.
I love the banter. I just don't know how many people actually relate to a person. The people that are relating to him the most are the ones that are furthest away from him.
Okay, I don't understand. Yep.
You were to look at the statistics, most of the people that are staunch Trump supporters are not the 1%.
Okay.
They are the people that are barely getting by. are having some issues financially or marginally educated, those are not people that I believe he's down to earth to.
See, interesting. You know, I mean, if you have ever,
I have not seen Trump in a trailer park. I have not seen Trump at a bus station. I have not seen Trump doing anything that's other than throwing paper towels after a hurricane.
Interesting. Okay, I've not seen him at a trailer park. Have you seen the trailer park come to him? Because I have.
Yeah, I saw it on January 6th.
Oh, all right, that is a whole nother episode that we should do. Seriously. You know, because again, very strong, you know, I have thoughts on that. But, you know, but I think that and I said everyday Joe. I guess I should be, you know, equal opportunity and say everyday Jane too. You know, no,
everyday
I mean, in terms
person.
Everyday person. You know, there are a lot of people in this country that he taps into. And so your question
I agree.
was,
I completely agree that there is a formula that's out there that he is successful in.
And all right, so let me give a little. So my dad and and my dad was a Reagan Republican. Okay, my dad hates Donald Trump. You know, and just, you know, he's like, but we were talking recently, and he said, listen, I got to say, that guy, you know, he has found a way to tap into the American public in a way that none of us understood. You know, and so that's, I mean, it's true. Okay, but your question was, does this hurt the party?
Yes.
You know, and I think that it does not hurt the party.
Having a president that is possible. I mean, he had to do fingerprints and all these other things. A former president of the United States.
Yep.
This does not hurt your party at all.
I didn't say at all. You know, you know. I mean, but I think. I mean, does this? Because I think where that's going to go is, you know, how does the Republican ever win an election ever again with this out there?
I don't think that's the case. I don't think it's that strong.
Okay. All right. So we just got to figure out what that means.
What that means, right?
So if Donald Trump is not the Republican candidate in 2024, okay. So if this blows up, and he is not the Republican candidate, whoever the Republican candidate is going to completely divorce themselves from this, and whoever that Republican candidate is going to be able to say, that was him, I'm not him. And you know, and be able to draw that line and divorce themselves from it. I think that is, you know, absolutely possible and probable if that's what happens. So then the question becomes, well, what if Donald Trump is the candidate? You know, so it's not somebody else, it's him. Okay, so from a pure legal standpoint, believe it or not, a felon can be the president of the United States. You know, so it is not a bar to holding public office as the president of the United States.
A felony.
A felony
is not a bar.
Is not a bar.
Okay.
Okay. So, oh God, look at that look. He's horrified.
I'm not. No, I'm not. I just want to fact check that.
Okay. All right. Well, we will fact check it, and if I'm wrong, I will be glad to go oops. But you know, I mean, I'm human, and that's one of the things that I enjoy about talking to you is, you know, I in no way, shape, or form say that I'm perfect.
Right.
And you know, I do a legal call-in show on the weekends with no call screener. So I mean, you don't get 100%. You know, you just have to be able to kind of think on your feet. And if I'm wrong, I will happily admit that.
Okay.
I can't wait to see that disclaimer. She was wrong.
No,
you know,
I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do that.
But,
maybe.
Yeah.
But no, I wouldn't do that.
Which is it, man? You know, but the you know, so if he is the candidate, where I think that it's going to be interesting is all right. So again, very strong in the Republican base in terms of he has a very loyal following. It's how does this affect the non-Republican base, the independents and the Democrats? You know, do they look at this as a bar? You know, I mean, there's no way you're qualified to be president if you can be criminally charged or criminally convicted. Okay, and I think that actually makes a distinction. Okay, people get charged, you know, all the time. Again, did criminal defense that don't get convicted. So if this turns into a conviction, I think it's a different, you know, outcome than if it's just charges that end up getting dropped.
So with this information that you have here,
yep,
and being a very strong lawyer, would you feel comfortable having Donald Trump be your president again?
Yes, I would. This is, in my view, looking at this, this is
not just off of that, but just his past performance over his one term, the things that are coming out. You feel, as the head of the GOP for the state of Delaware, very comfortable in saying, yes, I believe that Donald J. Trump should be the next president of the United States.
Or could be.
Or could be.
Yeah, I do. And I will base that on, and again, I mean, it's one of those things, our time flies when I'm on here,
right.
where I could, and I don't have the notes in front of me,
right.
but, when you are looking at, what happened in, when he was president from 2016 to 2020, where we were economically, where we were on the border, there's a lot of national issues that we are in much worse shape now than we were when he was president. And this particular thing, the indictment that's sitting in front of me is totally different. This is a falsifying a business record. I do make a distinction in types of crimes. I think everybody.
That's going to be the only charge that comes out of here?
That's interesting. Out of New York, but I've heard that there's
possibly
stuff,
in Georgia.
I've heard, that there's stuff, coming out of Georgia, and I don't know enough about it, and
not many people do at this point.
Okay, and so I guess we'll see.
Right.
I have heard that they would love something to come out of Georgia, and again, the people who hate Donald Trump hate Donald Trump. And will stop at nothing, to keep, they want to disqualify him however they can. And, but there's a line there. And, people, Americans, like fairness. We believe in a fairness, it's just one of those things we're taught, our entire life. And at some point, if things just kind of keep happening, even though he's a very outspoken man who can take care of himself, people at some point are going to go, what the heck? It crosses over into an unfair, and then they're championing for him.
I think that could, in the realm of possibilities, it could be one. But what do you say to the people that are in the GOP right now, average Joes, as you're calling them,
average people who have lost faith in the GOP? How would you bring them back? Okay.
What would you say to convince them that we are not what you see? Because, honestly,
you think I'm crazy?
I don't think you're crazy. I don't think you're crazy. I think that there are so many people in this country that have fallen prey to influence.
Okay.
And that influence is Donald J. Trump. And politics are very emotional.
They are.
And if you can play on those emotions and you have the codec necessary to play on emotions of certain people, you will do so. And I believe that he has that. I believe that he truly has. I believe that your party has that.
Interesting, because I actually think the Democrat Party plays on emotions more than the Republican.
I would think that you would think that.
Well, no, but and it's not just because I'm running for the GOP chair.
Really?
No, really.
Okay.
That obviously, no faking it here, man. We know what I am. Right. But I think that, the fear and on the Democrat side of things, I think they're tapping into fears, and that, they're basically painting, Republicans, all Republicans are, crazy Trump people. They're not. Okay, but back to the question of how do I
don't think that, for the record.
Okay.
I don't think that.
Okay. Let's say, what do I say? What's my pitch to Republicans to say, and when you say have lost faith, so have either left the Republican Party. So, Delaware has 175,000.
Or they're just not voting, which I don't want at all.
Agreed. And that was going to be, point two. So they're either not voting, or they are, or they've left the party and become an unaffiliated voter. My pitch is that, if you don't vote, okay, then bad things happen. So let me explain that. So here in Delaware, talking about the 2024 elections and what's going to happen. For me, if I'm the head of the GOP, I'm concerned about the down ballot races. I'm concerned about our House of Representatives, and I'm concerned about our Senate seats. Okay? Why am I concerned? Because everything right now, we are, the rhetoric, has become so divisive. It's almost impossible, to get the Democrats and the Republicans to work together in the General Assembly. There are very, very, divided lines there. Okay, and it is so far to the Democrat side that the Republicans have basically been rendered useless. Oh boy, am I going to get in trouble for that? But I mean,
I didn't say that.
Well, no, and what I mean by useless, I'm not saying they are useless. Yeah.
Okay.
No, what I'm saying is that when you start talking about, putting forth legislation, and the strong majority that's in place, what's called a supermajority in the Senate means that they have enough Democrat senators, and the same would be true on the Republican side under certain numbers, that they don't need anybody to cross over,
regardless of what happens.
Regardless. All right. So the House is 2 seats away from that happening. Okay, and then what happens is one party is 100% completely in control. Okay, and that. I think the conversation and the back and forth and the checks and balances of the two parties is important to America.
I would agree.
And so, you have to get more Republicans in that room in order to kind of, to make them have a seat at the table. So that people go, okay, we do have to try and work through this and work stuff together. So from my perspective, when I'm talking to people who have said, I just don't care, it doesn't make a difference. My job is to fire up, that grassroots, to find the passion, to find the thing that is, that makes them get up off their couch and either go early vote or go vote on election day, because they get it that it's either their civic duty to do it. It's important that I contribute and that I voice, that I contribute to it. So I think that, it is, but like, why am I running and why am I, okay, you got it.
Do you feel that it's a reasonable voice that your party is searching for, and they just haven't found that yet, either on the national stage, it's there on the state stage, but do you feel as though those voters, Republicans, they're in that bubble of, I wouldn't say giving up hope, but are not there? Do you feel it's that they just don't have anybody that they can get behind?
Maybe. So one of the...
They're tired of that separation that you talked about, where there is we have so many problems in this country that go beyond parties. I mean, just big issues that need to be dealt with. China, the Ukraine, that's just over there.
The dollar's worth 73 cents.
Crazy stuff.
Huge.
So, I mean, things that the smart people on both sides of the aisle need to get through. And the country is now saying, that's what we need for you to do. And I just don't think that Mr. Trump is that glue that's bringing both of those parties together.
Okay. Is Mr. Biden?
I think he's doing a better job.
Interesting.
I think he's doing a better job.
Okay, that, seriously. I mean, but no, I mean, again, it's,
Now, don't get me wrong. There's things that I have, and I am very left, okay? Well, I would say more middle left than anything, and there have been nights where I'm reading the news and I'm thinking, Joe, what did you do? But I get the one thing I don't have now, and this is my litmus, I am no longer scared of my phone. You're saying, Kerwin, why do you mean scared of your phone? Okay. When Donald Trump was president, I would get New York Times, CNN, Daily News, these pings of what he has recently said or what he is planning to do. And I'm thinking from a political side, oh my God, what's going to happen next? So my litmus is now when my phone dings from political updates, it's not fear.
And I'm the inverse.
Really?
Yes, 100%.
Really, Julianne?
Yes.
Really?
really. And I'm not a dumb person.
I don't think you are.
I'm not crazy. I'm actually a reasonable person. But when I look at, so one of the things, and again, this will be an interesting conversation. Do you think that the media is biased?
Absolutely.
Okay. Do you think that they're biased in favor of the Democrat Party?
Depends on your media outlet.
Okay. CNN.
Fox News.
CNN.
Fox
asked
News.
first.
Fox
Okay.
News.
How many right side news organizations are there? I bet you can name 2. Fox and Newsmax. Okay.
No, there's a couple more. I would
Okay.
say there's a couple more.
Are there more left-leaning?
I think there's just more. I don't think that's fair. I think that there's just more stations. I don't think so. If you look at them in a bucket, there's these many stations. I don't know. Fox gets so many people. You can compare it and say, well, there's 3 more, but do they get the same amount of viewership that Fox
Fair.
gets?
All right, fair.
You know what I mean?
But the reason I ask that is, so when you talk about the phone pinging, one of the things that I think has happened that is a disservice to all of us is that in many cases, journalism isn't journalism anymore. Not 100%, but
Thank you.
Yeah, well, and I couched that properly. I know what I'm sitting in front of. But think about it. There are people out there who are, who are only going to present one side of it. They're going to present it like there isn't even another side. And so I think, and some
Fox News.
CNN, MSNBC, so there are, but I think that that's doing a disservice to all of us. Yeah, people generally are, I'm going to use the word loyal to a particular outlet, whatever it is, and that's where they get their stuff from. And if that stuff is not balanced and does not have another viewpoint, they live in that bubble.
I've been watching Channel 6 for 44 years.
Channel 6 is lucky to have you.
I've watched it. I am in that bubble, and I understand what you're saying.
Okay. So, so I think that, and again, Donald Trump evokes a response, okay? And it isn't always positive. So the pings, almost got to be, so, my perspective, it was like, okay, what are they looking for next? And there was not even an opportunity for somebody, some of these outlets to say, has he done anything good? It was just everything that could possibly be wrong. That's what we're focusing on, and couldn't for a minute concede that there might be something that was,
Did I think his presidency was 100% failure? Absolutely not. That is not the case.
Good to know.
Right.
Yeah.
And it would be foolish for me to think so, and it would be very biased for me to think so.
Okay.
Do I think there was extreme tragedies within his administration? Absolutely. Do I think there were missteps? I think there's missteps with the current administration.
Good.
So I can't go down that road. I don't know. Where do we go from here? What's the next steps?
Okay. I think that there are, and it's ironic, that I'm running for the head of a political party.
I don't find irony in that at all.
You do not?
No, I do not. I see that as the next step. It was going to happen.
Really?
I think it was going to happen.
Okay. Well, and for those who want to know why I would do it, because I've run for statewide twice. I lost by 11% in the governor race in 2020. Yeah, and I lost by 3.9%. In the AG race in 22. And so, that's a huge, and of that race for me was terrific because I got crossover vote. There are, I made the pitch to Democrats and independents and said to them, there are issues that absolutely affect all of us, and it doesn't matter what your political party is. Okay, so one of the things that I think, so from like a national standpoint, I think all of us need to be concerned about what's happening at the southern border.
I would agree.
Okay, I think all of us need to be concerned about fentanyl.
I would agree.
Okay? And it doesn't matter what your political party is.
Right.
Okay. I think that China, is something, and so when you start talking about now, there's a whole lot of people that are like, not tuned into that. They're like, let's talk about
the biggest issue. It's what keeps me up at night is China.
And it should. I mean, what is happening, the moves that they are making, and in terms of the alliances that they're making with Russia, the fact that Saudi Arabia is now not going to trade in dollars anymore. I mean, there is some huge stuff that people who are sitting at their kitchen table in Delaware don't understand is going to affect them.
So that goes back to my point.
Okay.
We have to, and I want to continue that conversation. We can talk about China all day, but we need to stop with the antics that the former president, and he was good at it. The guy understands TV. He understands how to get people talking. He knows what sells.
Okay.
He knows what sells. But that is no longer effective for our democracy. In the current state of where we are right now, I do not believe that those shenanigans are effective.
Now,
because we have issues such as China, because we have issues such as fentanyl, but I mean, just on the international stage, huge things. We have to put all that stuff aside, and it's time for America to focus.
Okay.
More almost as we focused on World War II and the importance of that.
Okay.
And how we're bringing other countries to the NATO table. Look, we have huge issues. We need a president that, I'm not saying he doesn't understand it,
Okay.
but understands the importance for the focus.
And when you're talking about antics, I mean, are we talking tweets? Like, I want to understand. No, I'm not. Because I want to drill it down a little bit.
Paying off porn stars.
While he was president? Okay. No, but seriously, as a country, okay, do you think that the United States was stronger on the world stage when Donald Trump was president or when Joe Biden is president?
I think that we had a different posture.
Okay.
I believe our current president is truly a diplomat. I believe that our current president could have very easily, in the 90s and early 2000s, if not vice president, could have been a secretary of state for this country. I think very easily he could have done that. Okay. And I believe that his methodologies in dealing with other countries and dealing with issues on an international stage are methodical. And I believe that they are a demonstration of utilizing all of the information that he has and posturing himself in such a way that we're not making rash decisions. Going into a situation and dealing with that on a political stage, I don't find that it is effective to posture in the way that our former president did. I think by saying, I dare you, isn't diplomacy. Not on a global stage, maybe on a playground.
Okay.
And I think that was more of what he was after. And we have demonstrations of that time and time again.
Interesting, because I mean, diplomacy doesn't always work. It doesn't.
True.
Yeah, and there is a finesse to understanding, when it's time to engage in diplomacy and when it's time to, call it, be less reasonable. Yeah, I think that, I mean, as a businessman, I think that I actually think the nuance of that he did understand. But I mean, you and I have gotten so far afield, it's hilarious. But that's just kind of apparently what we do. Right. But I think that, for me, I think that President Biden is, I'm not being a smart aleck when I say this. I'm worried about his mental capacity. I mean, there are times where he, honest to God, looks like he's not quite sure what's going on. I'm not trying to be a smart aleck when I say that.
Do you think that's more of just someone being 80 that's tired of the nonsense and just blocks people out?
I would normally say that, but I do estate planning. No, I do. I mean, so competency is something that I actually really can focus on, and there have been times where, honest to God, I'm like, wow. So it concerns me, but a whole nother conversation is, why are we talking about two 80-year-olds? I mean, why don't we have somebody who
I couldn't agree more.
Who's 55?
I couldn't agree more. Would that make me feel more comfortable?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yes.
Give me a 55-year-old,
Yes.
yay. But I think that, and we've gotten so far, all these questions, I at this point, the question was, how do we make the pitch? And so when we're talking about these international things, the person who's sitting at the kitchen table in Delaware, who does not, isn't dialed in, doesn't understand what's going on with China, what do we say to them? And when you're going into a political season, okay? Are your groceries costing more money?
Absolutely.
Okay. Is gas costing more money? It's come down a little bit. It's come down, but compared to where it was, okay.
2 years ago,
but
a year ago.
but the cost of things, is a huge issue. I mean, people, their dollars are just not going, as far. Sure. I mean, when I figured out what a dozen eggs cost, I was like, I need to start renting chickens, which apparently people can do. So I think that there are what they call kitchen table issues that, here in Delaware specifically, okay, our education scores and what's happening with education is, as we're going into like a governor season, and where we're ranking on test scores, what we're spending per student, and where that's putting us nationally bottom 5, is something that people need to be concerned about. School safety, something we need to be talking about.
You can't go to the mall anymore.
Yeah, hello. Something we need to be talking about.
Right.
I think that, constables in schools is something that, I was listening.
Which we do have.
But we don't have them in every school. No. And for people who don't know the difference between a resource officer and, a resource officer is a cop. It's normally a state trooper, and then a constable is more about the relationships. They also happen to be able to, handle crisis stuff. But I was at a dinner. Do you know who Congressman Wesley Hunt is?
I do not. I haven't had the pleasure.
Okay, he is wow. I mean, just it takes a lot for me to go wow, and he just, super dynamic, conservative from Texas who looked at this room of people and said, I am so sick and tired of people saying that I'm a black man that has done so and so. My great grandfather was a slave. Me, my brother, my sister, every single one of us went to West Point. I have 4 master's degrees. I believe in America. I mean, he was just, holy cow. But why I bring him up is we were talking, he was talking about these kinds of issues and getting people, to get people to engage in, as it relates to school safety. The money that we had, it would cost, and it was like, I'm going to say $10 billion. It might have been $20 billion to put what I'm going to call constables in every school in the United States. Okay, and how much did we send to Ukraine? And his point was, I understand apples and oranges, 2 different things. But when you are talking about what is going to engage, American voters and get them to, to go, I care whether I'm voting or not. They are more worried about their kids, and the safety of their children.
I would agree. But we have to be careful, I believe, how is that the answer? Is adding another law enforcement
maybe
entity?
Maybe not. No, I don't want this to turn into that. What I'm saying is trying to find those issues that people are passionate, that are worried about, and then taking that worry and turning it into, we'll do something about it. Don't, I say to people all the time, are you just going to sit and complain about it, or are you actually going to try and do something about it?
Right.
And if we, the challenge for for all political, parties going into the 2024 season is, what are those issues that we're talking about, and what fires up your base?
Right.
It is. Yeah. And so, but time's going to tell on this. Like I said, I think it goes 2 different paths if it's a conviction versus the charges are dropped.
And if it's a conviction, what does that do to your party? A final question.
I don't know, and I'll tell you why. I mean, I think that the loyal Trump, people, it does not make a difference. They are seeing this as a witch hunt, and and it makes no difference. It's how it is how the message is delivered to the unaffiliated voters and the Democrats. Like, do people buy into this was a witch hunt, and gee, I don't like how this went down for lots of reasons, because if Joe Biden doesn't run again, could it be him in the caption the next time? And if people really kind of buy into that, I just don't like the idea of this, that we're going after political opponents by criminally charging them. That cuts to him. It actually helps him.
There you have it. Another great episode here with Miss Julianne Murray. We'd like to thank her for all of her insight. It has been great as always.
Love it.
We look forward to seeing you right here again on the agenda, hopefully sooner than later. And how many days before your election?
19, I think.
19 days. 19 days. So we'll see you very soon right here on the agenda.